Hello and welcome to the 2020 Humble Roundup. I'm joined by Austin from Bombchu,
Hello.
and today we're going to spend about an hour looking back at the Humble Choice. We'll be talking about games we've returned to, games we didn't return to, and games we hoped to return to but didn't have the time for. So Austin, do you want to explain a bit about yourself first and the types of videos you do?
Sure. So I'm Austin from Bombchu. You can find us over on the Bombchu YouTube channel. We're most known for our monthly Humble Choice reviews, and we also stream those on Twitch. You can find us at, I believe it's Bombchu TV over on Twitch. And yeah, that's kind of our shtick.
Yeah, and I'm Squash Pickle. You're on the Squash Pickles YouTube channel, so hopefully you know that by now. But yeah, each month I review the Humble Choice. Probably not as detailed as Bomb Choice reviews, just because I don't have as many people on board all the time to do it. But yeah, Bombchu, they do some really good reviews. I'm friends with sort of them on Discord, and Austin was kind enough to spend an hour of his time to talk about the games he's returned to. So you'll find his channel in the description, where there's Chris, Andron, and the other person's been announced, yeah?
Yeah, so Tyler is
Yeah.
our newest member.
Yeah, and yeah, new member Tyler. Yeah, so you find that it's going to be a really chilled out video. There won't be too much editing. So you see this is like a podcast maybe with a few extra images. So you might want to sit back, play Planet Coaster, which is what I'd probably do. Or, I don't know, go on Facebook or whatever these new people do. But yeah, we'll be going through each month, telling our thoughts on the bundle. And Austin, do you want to start with the first Humble Choice, which was December?
Sure. So December had the headliner of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, as well as Blasphemous as the indie headliner. And outside of that, we also got Ancestor's Legacy, Phantom Doctrine, Dead in Finland, Horizon Chase Turbo, Dark Future Blood Red States, X Morph Defense, Aegis Defenders, and Desert Child.
And was there a sort of extra game in that as well?
I had to scroll down a little bit. Yes, we got Erog. I guess it was
Okay.
the humble original there.
Okay, yeah. I feel like they've added sort of new, more DRM free games recently. It sort of started with one, and then it went up, and that's back
Yeah,
down
they
again, didn't
started
it?
doing like a sneak peek, and then they started just doing multiple humble originals, which was interesting. I wish that they had a better section for
Yeah,
showing
definitely.
off the humble original because it's really hard to find any information about it. It's just kind of sat here in the extras section where if you click on it, it's just a download. You can't get like a description or anything.
Yeah, that'd be good if it's just linked to like the dev's website or even Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't actually get this bundle, so for me, I was in the middle of playing, I think it was Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I knew I wasn't getting onto Tomb Raider, and I had Uncharted 4 to play, so that was like the main game. And the other games didn't interest me too much, but someone gifted me Desert Child, I think. But I played that and it didn't really work, it didn't click with me.
Hmm.
What did you think of the bundle? Did you buy it first of all?
I buy all the bundles because I
Oh
have
yeah,
to do the reviews, and so I never really get the option to skip. But
yeah,
Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I played all the way through. That was really
mhm.
enjoyable. I enjoyed the whole trilogy. I think my favorite was Tomb Raider 2013. I think it was 2013 was when the first reboot came out.
Yeah.
That was my favorite of the trilogy. Rise, I didn't love so much. I know a lot of people did. I was in the minority there, but Shadow, I had a lot of fun with. It was pretty polished, and it had it was a little bit more open. You could do side quests and stuff like that. But yeah, I
Mm.
definitely had a good time with that and finished that out. Blasphemous, have I haven't gone back to it because I just haven't had but it's still like high on my to do list. I have a section of games in my Steam library that I kind of try to keep to like a short list of games I want to tackle soon, and that one is
Yeah.
still in there. It's tough, but it's got some amazing cutscene art that is just a real treat to look at. So I just keep fighting through whenever I do pick it up.
Is that one? Sorry,
Go ahead.
is that one a Metroidvania?
I would kind of. I like you get some new
Yeah.
moves that help you access some stuff that you couldn't before, but it feels a little bit kind of like a 2D Souls like as well, in terms of your how your movement works and
Mhm.
how death works and stuff like that. So you're always
Yeah,
kind of trying to push to that next checkpoint for your healing items and
yeah, it's good. It just didn't. A game really needs to sort of click with me to make it return to, because there's just so many. You have like 12 games a month plus the other games that you're playing. It
yeah,
really has to stand out to return to. But there's quite a
yeah.
few games I did return to, but it's just not in this month. Did you have any other thoughts about this month?
I'm trying to see if anything else here really stood out to me. Aegis Defenders was pretty clever, but I didn't have anyone to play it with, and that seemed like it was going
Okay.
to be a better game for co-op. Um, Man, yeah. The rest of these, I don't think I ever went back to after my first play on them.
Yeah. And did you review the extra, or was that Chris?
I think Chris did that month because
Okay.
I don't remember what Erog is at
Yeah,
all. I
before I started reviewing, I sort of skipped the extras.
right.
Um, Sort of because there was just so many other games. I didn't want to play like a little indie game. But once I've sort of reviewed them, there's actually some real good stuff in there.
Yeah, it's you can find some real treats in there. I wish a lot of them in the past. What they would do is if they ever came to Steam, you'd get a Steam key for it eventually.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
for a lot of them, they wouldn't tell you, but it would just show up in your humble keys. And now it seems like they all most of them go to Steam immediately or pretty shortly after, but we don't get Steam keys for them anymore. So I don't know what the deal is there, but
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I think just in general developers have been less, I don't know, encouraged by bundles, or it definitely seems as if they're drifting away from bundles and more having sort of bigger sales on Steam where they can control maybe who
yeah,
gets the game a bit more.
yeah, for sure. I know as soon as keys get out there, people start trading them or selling them on the gray market, and then
Yeah.
that kind of devalues their what people think their worth is in a
Mm.
sale. So
Yeah. Well, they had some good games in that bundle, just games that didn't really interest me enough to buy.
yeah,
But in January we had Middle Earth: Shadow of War, Graveyard Keeper, Two Point Hospital, Dirt Rally 2.0, Street Fighter 5, Bad North, Trailmakers, Unrailed, Whispers of a Machine, Them's Fighting Herds, Mages of Mistralia, Grip plus one DLC. It's just an elusive DLC, it doesn't have the name. And we also had Unparallel as the Humble Original. So this one I didn't buy. I actually bought Two Point Hospital about a month before and bought like
oh,
all the DLC for it on sale.
okay.
Um, so yeah, I sort of own all of Two Point Hospital. That's a really good game. I sort of that's I love Planet Coaster, and it seemed to sort of itch that Planet Coaster itch, which is funny enough for a hospital-based game. But yeah, that was good. But again, I'd own it before. Bad North, I'd seen that on sort of one of the Nintendo Indie showcases, I think. Um, that looked interesting, but I just thought it looks like a game that might be bundled again in the future. But I don't think I have seen it bundled again. Have you?
I don't know. I don't think I have.
Hmm. And then Middle Earth: Shadow of War, I hadn't played the original, but it was just on the PlayStation Plus lineup, so that worked out well. So now I own it. And then Them Fighting Herds, I either had it before this bundle or got it in quite a sort of a recent bundle after this was posted. So it worked out well for me. And then the other games, I sort of had enough of racing games on PC. I don't know why, but they always work better for me on consoles, even if I play with a controller.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that was it for me. What did you think of the bundle?
So I already owned Middle Earth: Shadow of War, and I had played through that. Playing it, I enjoyed it my first time, but
Yep.
not as much as Shadow of Mordor.
Hmm.
Playing through Shadow of War a second time, at least the opening section, I was just bored to death. That is not a game that I think I ever want to play through a second time, all the way through. Um, it's I think that's a good one to play once though.
Yeah.
Um, Two Point Hospital took me by surprise. It's not one that I played for a really long time, but it held my attention longer than that type of game usually would. Um, any sort of like building game or like planning or simulation type of game like that is usually not for me. But it had lots of really funny stuff. and it kept things not like things never got so hectic that I was just overwhelmed
Yeah,
by options or by things I needed to handle. So yeah, that was a fun one.
yeah,
Um,
and then oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, and then Street Fighter Five. Had you played that one before?
I've never been a Street Fighter guy. Um, that it's a little too technical for me
Hmm.
in terms of fighting games. Um, to give you an idea of fighting games that I enjoy, Super Smash Brothers, of course,
Yep,
Dragon Ball
definitely.
Fighter Z,
Yeah, I
uh,
haven't heard of that one.
Dead or Alive. I basically, if you can swap between characters and kind of know your general move set, like I'm into that. And
Mm.
Street Fighter, uh, maybe it might have changed with five, but the Street Fighter Five community is so nuts that I'm just too far behind to really catch up. So I didn't have a great time with that, but it was cool to have the chance to give it a shot.
Yeah, I suppose them fighting herds is that of a similar vein?
Yeah, so I've never really been into My Little Pony or that fan community. That's based on the Skullgirls engine, I believe, and
Okay.
Skullgirls. Like I appreciate what that game is. It's just it was never very fun for me to play. That's fighting that I couldn't really get into.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Were you able to play it in some degree, or did Chris cover that and you sort of skipped over it?
Chris covered it, but I gave it a shot, and yeah,
Okay.
it was. I wasn't able to get into it. Unrailed, I've actually ended up having a decent time with, but that one kind of I couldn't get anybody else to pick that one up. That was the first month where Chris and I actually had to choose games. We didn't get all of the games, and so Chris instantly was just like, I'm not getting that game." It was like, damn. So I didn't have anyone to play it with, but I played with somebody random online, and it was pretty fun. I
Yeah,
never I never really came back to it, but I had a good time with it for a couple hours.
that's good to hear. And then Unparallel,
Oh
did you play that one?
yes, that was a great Humble Original. It was very short. Um, I don't remember. I I feel like the developer mentioned they were going to do something else with it, but I never heard anything beyond that. So I would love to see that expanded into a bigger game or maybe some sort of sequel. But I had a very good
Yeah,
time playing on Parallel.
good. I think that's anything else you want to say about this month? Well, not this month's, but January's bundle.
No, I think that about covers it.
Cool. Is it my time or your turn to read
I think
February?
it's my turn.
Okay.
So, February 2020, we got Frostpunk plus a DLC. We got Pathfinder Kingmaker, Book of Demons, Cryofall, Okami HD, Eliza, Shenzhen IO, Project Warlock, The Hex, Warstone TD, Underhero, Nightcall, and let's see. In terms of stuff from the extras, we got Tales from Off Peak City Volume 1. And yeah, that was our humble original there. The rest, I think, were DRM free copies of some of the games that were in the bundle.
Yeah. So this month I actually bought, which is good for a sort of podcast of this sort. So I returned to Frostpunk. I returned to Eliza, finished that one. Um, Shenzhen IO I returned to, and I sort of have that printed as a folder. Used up most of the printer's ink for that. And Nightcall I believe I returned to as well. I don't know whether I finished it because it's quite open ended. I don't know if you've played that, but I don't know whether there was a distinct end to it.
In Nightcall,
Yeah,
that's one that I have not gotten to try yet. So Chris covered that one, and it's been on my to do list to give it a try along with
yeah,
Eliza because I didn't get to try either of those from this bundle.
yeah. So what did you return to, and then maybe we can talk about them in more detail.
Sure. Book of Demons I came back to for at least a little while. It ended up being a little too easy, I felt like,
Okay.
but I still had some fun and it had a very interesting art style. Okami HD's still on my high on my to do list. because I've been meaning to play through that since it was on the PS2. Um, Shenzhen IO, I had some real fun with. It gets really hard really quickly,
Yeah,
but
that's
it was definitely very satisfying to figure things out in that, and that was kind of the start of our Zachtronics
yeah.
run of games, which was really cool to see because I had never really played any Zachtronics games before.
No, me neither. It's definitely it made me feel maybe not as good as myself as I thought I was at sort of technology type thing. I
um,
think. Oh,
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, we had our sort of GCSEs, our exams in a few months, or supposed to have. This was before sort of coronavirus, and I sort of pretended that Shenzhen IO is my computer science revision, and it worked out well. I got quite a good grade in computer science, so
Yeah,
maybe it does work. But
yeah.
it's
Honestly,
definitely
if you can do the stuff in Shenzhen, then that's a pretty good basis for being able to do
yeah,
assembly. And if you can do assembly, you can do
pseudocode or whatever.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yes. So I also returned to. I finished Eliza. That was good. I think that might have been one of my earliest visual novels. I think it's from that genre. Maybe a bit more interactivity than other games. But yeah, Eliza I returned to.
mhm.
The Hex, I saw some gameplay, read up on that. We won't go into spoilers here, but if you like, I don't know, you've played the Hex, haven't you? So maybe you can say it in a better non-spoilery term.
Yeah, so I played that from start to finish. It's from the same maker as Pony Island. So if you've played that and you enjoyed that, um, this is this is a bit different, but it's got some of the same themes running through there. Um, you're basically the idea is you're playing as a video game character or rejected video game characters from franchises that basically have left them behind or have gone other places. So
Wreck It
uh,
Ralph type thing.
yeah, but there's definitely some fourth wall breaking stuff in there, and it's good. I would say beyond that, just if it sounds interesting, give it a play, and
Hmm.
don't look at anything else.
Yeah, yeah, I did look at everything else, so it's not one I'll be returning to, or not. Well, playing in the first place. That's an unclaimed choice.
hmm
Um, any other thoughts on the bundle? Frostpunk, I played quite a lot of. Then it started to get quite dreary, I suppose.
Yeah,
I don't
Frostpunk
know
was
how to
hard.
describe it. Yeah, I didn't. I quite like this style of game, so maybe it wasn't the difficulty. It was more just the bleakness of it all.
Yeah,
I think that sometimes gets to you in games, doesn't it?
yeah, it's really depressing. It's there's not a lot of happiness to be had in that game.
Yeah, it's like, do you kill the children or the adults? It's like there's no other option.
Oh god. I will say Tales from Off Peak City Volume One
Oh yeah, yeah.
is one to check out if you got that month, or it's also on Steam. But the all the games in that series are really cool. So there's Off Peak, I think, or I think that's what the name of the first game is. It's free, and then the Norwood Suite is the follow up to that. That was in a monthly
Oh yeah.
bundle at one point, and that's where I kind of discovered the series. And oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I love playing through that so much. It's got really good music,
Yeah,
just all sorts of weird visuals and stuff going on. So
yeah. That's one of the first originals I returned to. I don't know whether I finished it, but I just have vague memories of a pizza box, whatever that has to do with
yeah,
it.
you do some making of pizzas.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all for February.
Okay.
So for March, we had My Friend Pedro,
Mhm.
Planet Coaster plus one DLC, Formula One, Fell Seal, Battle Chasers Night Hall or Night Mark, I can't read it online, Exapunks, Turok, Death's Gambit, 19880X, 198X, Niflheim, AR War 2, Etherborn, and then we had it was the World's Fair pack for Planet Coaster. We had a sneak peek, so I think that was the first sneak peek of
Mhm.
One Step from Eden, which I think we'll talk about at the end of this, and Space Routine as well. Um, so do you want to lead on what you returned to, and then I'll say what I returned to, and then we talk in more detail.
Sure. I played all the way through My Friend Pedro. It's a great
Hmm.
game, and it was. I actually paid full price for that when it came out at launch because I'd been looking
Okay.
forward to it for a long time, and I really enjoyed it then. But for how short it was. I didn't feel like it was easy to recommend it to a bunch of people at that price, but in a bundle, man, like that was great to be in a humble choice. So that was easy to recommend there. Um,
Yeah,
let's see. Exapunks was our next Zachtronics, like traditional Zachtronics type game, and
yeah,
really loved that. So like a lot of the limitations that you would have in Shenzhen were changed here to where you would have robots that could move around and like talk to each other. And I got a lot further in that than I did in Shenzhen. So I definitely
okay,
returned to that, and I still got stuck eventually, but yeah, I really liked Exapunks a lot. Death's Gambit was I meant to come back to that because I had a good time with it. It had some really cool art, and I liked the gameplay. I don't know why I didn't come back to that. I'm going to put that on my to do list because that one was I had a good time with the start of that. 1980X, I definitely finished that. That was really cool.
yep,
Um, Cutscenes kind of went on a long time, but
definitely. I don't think they let you skip it either, did
yeah,
they?
they're unskippable, which was kind of weird.
I
Um,
think even the opening cutscene that kept playing, didn't it, all the time?
yeah,
Every time you launch the game.
yeah, but the games themselves were great homages, and they were really fun to play. They weren't super hard to get through, and but it was just kind of like a good way to reminisce about that era of gaming. So I'm looking forward to part two on that. Um,
Yeah. Have they announced a part two?
I think when they did the Kickstarter, they said that this was part one of two. So I
Okay.
haven't seen anything about what's going to be in part two, but it sounded like that was part of the plan. So and then Etherborn, I didn't finish, but I got pretty far in it. I hit a point where the levels got a little too out of control for me, but I was pretty close to the end when I stopped, and that was really cool. That was really lovely to look at, and lots of mind bending levels.
Yeah, so in this month, I returned to My Friend Pedro, finished that off. Planet Coaster, I continually return to. We'll talk about that more in a minute. 1980X I finished, and Etherborn I finished. I think as we sort of go into the lockdowns and whatever, I definitely returned to more games. Turok I played a bit of, and I just didn't understand. I just didn't understand the game in general, to be honest. There's so many like better retro games I could play, and it didn't really have like a fond memories of that. So yeah, My Friend Pedro, you sort of shared your thoughts on that. Overall, though, you're happy to see it in the bundle then?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I try to when I look at these, I try to look at like if I was just getting all this fresh, like if there are games that a ton of people that I know a ton of people have, then it's like okay, why was that included? But
Hmm.
I know My Friend Pedro hadn't been out for that long, and for the price that it had launched at, I don't think I, I think this got access to that game to a lot more people, which was good.
Yeah, yeah, I sort of went straight for it. March, that was the funny year, wasn't it? I remember playing My Friend Pedro on one monitor and having all sort of the early briefings on the other.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that was a really good game. I think the soundtrack, especially, and just the overall style. I think from like the cover image, you don't really know exactly what to expect, but it is definitely worth a go, especially if you like shorter games, like Austin mentioned earlier.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely
Um,
doesn't overstay its welcome.
yeah, it was. I think it didn't, perhaps over the game, it didn't really change many of the mechanics, but the mechanics it had, it worked very well on.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of Turok, I grew up playing N64 games, and yeah, I'm with you. That it's hard unless you liked Turok as a kid, which I didn't play it as a kid, but I played a lot of N64 games. Turok is kind of hard to go back to.
Yeah, it just didn't click with me. I didn't see why I wanted to spend my time on that.
Yeah.
Planet Coaster. Now that game, I claimed for the DLC. I think looking at Steam now, I played about 420 hours in total. Um, Let me see how much of that was over the last 2 weeks. It's just that game. I must play daily. I think I like theme parks in general, and sort of the design that goes into that, or all the backstage areas, that sort of thing. So that's like an ideal game for me. So in the last 2 weeks, I've only played 6 hours. Um, but yeah, in total, 413.7. I can see now.
Yeah, I've
But
seen
yeah,
some of the stuff that you've made. It's impressive stuff.
yeah, you actually, you and Chris helped with one, didn't you?
Yeah, that's true.
You happy if that goes in the description?
Say again.
I'll
Oh
check with
yeah,
Chris
go
as
for it.
well. Yeah, cool. So yeah, Austin helped me. Austin and Chris helped record some vocals for an action coaster. But yeah, Planet Coaster I could talk about for like hours and hours. It's just an amazing game. I don't think Chris was too keen on it when he reviewed it. Have you got a chance to play it?
I couldn't figure it out. I was trying to do like some of the initial stuff, and it was like, okay, place this coaster over here, and no matter where I tried to place it, it was like, there's land in the way. There's land in
Yeah,
the way. So I've struggled with that for a little while, and said I would come back to it, and I just haven't done it so far.
I think I must have played about an hour out of like the 400 plus hours of the campaign mode. I'm always playing sandbox, always out of
Okay,
like a podcast or something on. It's
nice.
just yeah, it's incredible. And then the World's Fair DLC, I didn't have that DLC, so that almost made up the price of the bundle. 1980X, that was like an arcade type one, wasn't it?
Hmm.
That was really good. I don't know whether it's a type of game where I don't remember the story, but I remember having fun with some of the arcade sections. I don't know. It feels like there was a focus on the story, but maybe it just went over me.
I think it's supposed to be kind of this look back at what it felt like to be a kid in the 80s playing games
Mhm.
at the arcade, and how that was an
Yeah,
escape from kind of your problems in life. And um, I mean, there was a little bit more of a personal story to it, I guess, but the specifics were over my head as well. I
mhm.
was falling asleep during the cutscenes. They looked really lovely, but they were so slow, and the voice acting for them was just like, "Ugh, let's get to the next arcade game. Come on."
Yeah, that's sort of my thoughts of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a really nice atmosphere to it. Um, yeah, and then Everborn, I played all the way through that. I really like that one. Again, I can't remember too much of it, but I do remember enjoying it. And Exapunks, you said you had fun with that.
Oh yeah.
I didn't play it because I was sort of getting into Shenzhen more, and I didn't want to learn like a new language or a new way of thinking. So I thought
Hmm.
I'd stick with Shenzhen.
Okay.
But yeah, it's still in my library, and I probably should still give it a play at some point. But again, it was a time when I was sort of getting closer and closer to the exams,
Yeah.
and I'd sort of come home and do loads of revision. And a Zachtronics game, maybe you want to play something like Mario or Crash Bandicoot or Uncharted or whatever,
Yeah. Turn your brain off for a little bit.
or Planet Coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Space Routine. Did you play that? I can't remember that one at all.
No, Chris did, and he really didn't like it. Um, I
The cover image reminds me of is it Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time? It's something that I'm thinking of,
okay.
but yeah, I don't remember the gameplay of that. But One Step from Eden you played, didn't you? The sneak peek of that.
Yeah, I did do the sneak peek for that. It was kind of like Mega Man Battle Network, as somebody told me, which I've never played that, despite being a big Mega Man fan. It was too hectic for me at the time, um,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's been dropped in speed, or something changed between then and now, to where when it was featured recently in a bundle as a full game, I had a lot more fun with it.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Sort of in the recent bundle, and I think we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
But yeah, the sneak peek. I think so. March and then in December. So I had a fair few months when it wasn't as a title, but it's a fairly new release. When it was the sneak peek, that was like before the game released, wasn't it?
it was either before it or like right around the time of release, because sometimes
Yeah,
they've thrown in sneak peeks for games that have already launched, which is weird.
yeah, that was the case of Wildfire, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That was March. That was a really good bundle for me. Loved My Friend Pedro, loved Everborn, enjoyed 1980X, and the DLC for Planet Coaster was sort of a cherry on the top. Um, so moving on to April, what do we get then?
all right, so we got Hitman 2, Grease, This Is the Police 2, Opus Magnum, Molex Sentes, Raiden 5 Director's Cut, Driftland: The Magic Revival, Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, Trooper The Bard's Tale 4 Director's Cut, Shopkeep 2, Capitalism 2, and in terms of our DRM free stuff, we got Divinoids, Ring of Pain Sneak Peek. We also got Train Valley 2 as a bonus game if you were subscribed to the March bundle.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was like, what's it going to be? Is it going to be like The Witcher 3 or something? Cyberpunk pre-order, and then
Yeah,
it was Train Valley 2, and
yeah.
everyone.
Stay subscribed to the end of the month, and you'll get this bonus game. And nobody knew what it was going to be. That was a weird thing they
Yeah.
did for a little bit.
So this one was a weird bundle. I'm looking back at it now, and I had 5 choices remaining. But I think it has some of my all-time favorite games in it. So it's weird in the fact that we have big games like Hitman 2 and Greece, sort of they're big games in their sort of genre, I suppose. But then we also had Capitalism 2, Shopkeep 2, Chirok 2, any
Now,
other sequels?
Squash,
Train Valley 2.
I'm noticing that you didn't redeem Shopkeep 2, which is Game of the Year.
Oh dear, yeah. Well, I need to play the original first. That's my excuse. And the VR spin-off. I think that would help me get fully immersed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this was a weird month. So yeah, I returned. Well, I'd played Hitman 2 before. I played Greece for the first time all the way through. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Um, Trooper I completed, and I think Opus Magnum I played a little bit of. But again, we're getting closer and closer to exams. Or were they cancelled by then? I'm not sure. No, they weren't cancelled. But yeah, Opus Magnum I played, I liked, but I didn't love. And then I didn't play any of the sneak peeks. Train Valley 2, I think I played a tiny bit of, but I actually really, really liked Train Valley. That was from a Jingle Jam. But Train Valley 2, it just didn't work with me for whatever reason. What did you return to?
So I've always wanted to like the Hitman series, but it's a game that I think requires a little too much planning or improvisation, and I'm not really good at either of those things.
Mhm.
So it's a game I enjoy watching people play, but it's not one that I really have fun playing. Um,
Yeah.
it was cool that like I owned Hitman 1, and it was cool that it had the option to pull in all the Hitman 1 levels into the
Oh,
Hitman
yeah.
2 engine. Thought that was a cool thing, but yeah, I never really came back to it. Greece, I've played all the way through a couple of times. I did a second playthrough. I had played through it all the way before when it had first launched, and then I played it a bit for this bundle. That's a really beautiful game. I know it's not for everybody.
Mm.
It's weird that a lot of people call it a walking sim. I would definitely not describe it that way, but I think that's a bit of an unfair description for it. But um,
Yeah.
this is the Police 2 was a really weird sequel. Like the first game was super popular. Well, I don't know if it was super popular, but it had kind of a cult following, and people really liked it. And then they swung out This Is the Police 2, and it was just like cutscene, 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 a little gameplay cutscene. It was just like, oh my god, it was exhausting. Um,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, I played This Is the Police, the first one.
Hmm.
Uh, I think I played This Is the Police when I saw This Is the Police 2. I think you mentioned in your review that you liked the original, or
Yeah, it was really
yeah,
stressful, so like I didn't play it all the way through, but
mm.
it was a well done game.
Yeah. And I was thinking, well, if you enjoyed the first one and not too keen on the second one, I'll just play the first one, and then I think I sort of the first one had permadeath, didn't it? Or either had
Yeah,
permadeath or
it
death
had like
start.
a failure condition that could happen, I think,
Yeah,
to
yeah. So
where
I
you
failed in
lose.
that after hours and hours of it. So
Yeah,
I wasn't particularly enthralled to go on the sequel.
yeah,
Hitman 2, I bought at launch. That was like must have been a humble year discount, and you get like £40 to spend on the store. That was a good deal.
yeah. Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, so Hitman 2, I played on launch. Love that game. I'm very much looking forward to the third game, which comes out either next month or this month, depending on how quick I can edit this. Uh, but yeah, I love the Hitman games. And then Greece. Now, Greece is one of my sort of favorite games of all time. Just the music in that and the visuals, it all comes
Hmm,
together.
yeah.
I don't know. I think the story I'm still not in. I don't know if I connect with, but it's more the visuals and the sound with that. It's trying to tell a story, but maybe it's too abstract for me.
Well, so the idea behind the game was to take this artist's art and put it into an interactive like game form. So
Yeah.
the game and the story were kind of formed around the art.
Mm.
And I think because of that, they left a lot open to interpretation for you to kind of just
Yeah,
fill
definitely.
in the story yourself.
Did you play anything else from this month?
Yeah, so Opus Magnum and Molex Syntez were some more Zachtronics games, and I played both of those. I was with you on Opus Magnum. I liked it. I didn't love it,
Hmm.
um, and I thought that a lot of people really like that game, and I think I just prefer doing the programming. I like typing in the code that I want to do,
Yeah.
and this was more of a mechanical. Um, create the chemicals and the molecules by well, I'm mixing two games right now, but create the do the alchemy and create the compound by using the machines to move in the right ways. And yeah, it was fun. It wasn't quite what I was looking for out of a Zachtronics game. Molex Syntez
Yeah.
was kind of similar. It was you're automating the creation of molecules, and that one is like probably one of the most bare bones like Zachtronics games. I'm not even sure if it come. I don't think that one comes with a manual like some of the
Okay.
other programming ones, but um, I still had some fun with it, so
Yeah.
it was fine.
Yeah, that one there again. I had a biology exam coming up. I didn't want to sort of fill my head with non-useful biology. That felt more too educational, even though it was a game. But again, there was other games like Greece I'd prefer to return to.
Mhm.
Trouba Brook, I finished that. Ah, I really liked that one. Had a few interesting puzzles that required like a tutorial,
Mm.
like some really weird stuff, like you're trying to in a lake and you're trying to get I don't know, McGuffing or whatever, and you need a certain you need like I think it was boots with a bin's lid or a trash can to our American audience to put on your feet to walk across the water, but next to you was a boat. And there was things like that just didn't add up. But overall,
Yeah.
the story and the atmosphere that worked really well.
Yeah, I loved the atmosphere there, and I liked where the story was going. I think I ended up quitting when I hit a point where too many of the puzzles were just too obtuse for me to figure out on my own. Um, I probably should have just looked up a guide and kept going with it,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And then, what about the DRM free extra stuff? Any thoughts on that? Nothing really stands out for me.
Um, I did play a good amount of Train Valley 2, and at first I was like, well, this is just kind of dumb, but then it's a really relaxing game,
Yeah.
especially if you're not chasing like the gold medals. Um, it's hard to fail. In fact, it's kind of built to where you can't really fail. The only thing is that you won't like if you're not playing optimally, then you won't get the medal, like all the medals, which is
Hmm.
fine. The medals are don't seem to block you from progressing. So
Yeah.
I kind of would throw on a show that I was just watching and have Train Valley as just kind of a little side thing that I was doing,
Hmm.
and it was just a super chill thing to relax to.
Yeah.
Not something I would recommend somebody buying or anything like that, but as a free thing I got on the side, it was just like, hey, this is kind of cool. Um, we did skip over Shopkeep too, though.
Yep. I thought I don't know whether that deserves the limelight. The
I
Scotch
technically
Pickle.
came back to play that game during
Did you?
a stream. I did a stream where I played it some more, and it was worse. It was somehow worse than my initial playthrough. It was that's a real bad game.
Yeah, I feel bad because I've seen it in a few charity bundles, the original Shopkeep,
Hmm.
but it's when it takes up a choice, it's like Shopkeep 2 and Capitalism 2.
Yeah,
Everyone knows they're going to be skipped over. It's like, what can we find right at the bottom of the game list to put on so people feel like they have a choice? It's like a
Yeah.
magician when you have like the forced hand.
Now I've heard Capitalism 2 is actually pretty good, but you have to be into that type of game, and it's also
Yeah.
super old. Um, but supposedly it's still fun. Like Shopkeep 2 is just not good, but that doesn't stop some people from. So on the original Shopkeep, somebody got super mad that I didn't like it. It was just like, what? This game is amazing. I could not understand their way of thinking, but they were really mad I didn't like that game.
Thinking back to May 2020 now, sort of moving on to there. We had Jurassic World Evolution, XCOM 2, Rise of Industry, Niche, a genetic survival game, Warhammer 40,000, The Swords of Ditto, Warsaw, Heave Ho, Mo Astray, Neoverse, Chess Ultra, Horus, and then we had Rainy Season as the DRM-free extra game, a Fade Tactics sneak peek, and some XCOM 2 DLC, which was Reinforcement Pack and Resistance Warrior Pack. This month here, I don't think I reviewed, but I definitely, this is sort of when I was thinking of returning to reviewing.
Mhm.
And I definitely wrote a script for a few of these games. I don't think I published it though, just because I was sort of running out of time and I didn't want to sort of rush the final games. I'd rather treat everything with respect. But Jurassic World Evolution I already owned. XCOM 2 I returned to in quite a lot of depth. Rise of Industry I returned to for a bit. Swords of Ditto I completed. Has to do something right for a roguelike to make me finish it. Heave Ho I completed. Mo Astray I completed. Horus I completed. Um, yeah, and that's everything from this month. What did you return to?
Uh, so XCOM 2 was pretty difficult. I didn't. I had played that in a previous monthly, and it was just super hard. So I was like, I should probably finish the original XCOM, and I never did. Um, let's see. Swords of Ditto, I tried to come back to, and I think I just really need to play that in co-op with somebody at some point. Um,
Yeah,
it was fun, but it just I wasn't having a big fun time by myself. Moastray I finished recently. I had a really good time with that. I
mm,
thought that the levels there kept changing in interesting ways, adding little new interesting mechanics, and it had really good pixel art and had a cool atmosphere.
yeah, definitely.
Um, Neoverse I came back to. I'm not usually a car. I keep I keep thinking I'm not like a card or deck building roguelite card battler guy, and then
Yeah,
games keep showing up that I enjoy. So maybe I'm wrong, but um, that was pretty fun. I didn't stick with it for a long time, but I came back to it at least a couple of times and uh, had some fun with it. Horus, I came back to. That's a really long game. It's a
yeah.
long game. It's like a 20-hour game almost.
I
And
finished it. Let me sorry.
nice.
I'll just see how long it took me on Steam. So bear in mind, I sometimes keep my menus open in games. It took me about 19 hours.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't finish it, but I did play it for a while after my initial review, and it was good. Like it had some good charm to it, some really great music, and they just kept adding new mechanics, and it sounded like there were so many more that they were going to add by the end. Um, but I hit a point where I just didn't really the platforming was kind of floaty and slippery, and there were some levels that were starting to really frustrate me, and so I ended up quitting on it just because I had other stuff I needed to play. But I did have fun with what I played, and then
Yeah,
Rainy
sorry.
Season was the DRM free game that I played, and that was a cool, calm little slice of Japanese home life that was it's not it's easy to finish pretty quickly, so I didn't really see much reason to go back and play it again. But yeah,
Yeah, I was
I
thinking of
enjoyed it.
Rainy Season. And I remember you reviewing it, and I watched your stream of it, and it looked okay. And then it must have been in one of like the summer showcases or Games Fest or like just an indie showcase perhaps, was it Wholesome Games? They sort of did those things, didn't they?
Okay, yeah.
And I saw Rainy Season in it, and there was like some there was more to the game without going into spoilers. Like I think, well, it was in the trailer. There was like a monster in like the closet essentially,
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't remember. Did you discover that in your playthrough, or was it like locked?
So the door was locked. I couldn't find the key, but then it was like, oh, mom says there's a monster living in there, and it was like I thought it was a joke or something
Yeah.
like that. And I would look for the key, but I couldn't find it. And then you showed me that, and I got a good laugh out of it because the monster's like friendly and it's like, oh, hey, what's going on?
It's like just behind the door, and we never realized until the
Yeah.
video.
So I don't know if that's framed as like one of the daydreams because like there's a lot of kind of non-realistic stuff that happens in the game that are supposed to be like daydreams that you're having, like when you go outside and all of a sudden there's jellyfish flying out everywhere, things like that,
Yeah,
that kind of seamlessly enter the game without it's you're never clear on when it's shifting, but
yeah. So yeah, that one I didn't play at all, but it sounds interesting, especially after seeing that trailer. Fate Tactics sneak peek. Did you play that one?
I didn't play the sneak peek or the full game, so that's
Okay.
on my to-do list
Yeah.
to give it a try, but no, I have not tried it yet.
Yeah, we sort of did the DRM-free things first in this month. But yeah, so XCOM 2, you said you found too hard. I tried to force myself to play it, and I had it similar with another XCOM like recently, which I was reviewing. And I played XCOM 2 for 17 hours,
Wow.
and I loved the fighting. I just didn't like the in between bits where I was prevented from progressing through the game because I didn't have the right amount of building materials or whatever.
Uh,
And it was just at a point where I had to like keep grinding, and that there's permadeath or not instant fail, but perma fail perhaps is the best name for that.
mm,
And it's just I could see perma fail getting closer and closer,
oh
and
yeah,
17 hours had passed, and I was like,
that's
no.
yeah. It's hard to want to go put yourself through that again, uh,
Yeah,
when it's just like what all that time is wasted. Damn.
but the actual like the game to game moment, that was excellent, sort of the gameplay of it. But I didn't want to keep on playing that. Rise of Industry, that was good. I dwindled off on that one. There's nothing inherently bad about it. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
It got really complicated very quickly. Um,
Hmm.
I thought it was well done. It had a sharp interface,
Yeah,
um, but it got to the point where you were having to really consider a lot of complicated ideas at the same time. Um, the systems were well built and well put together, and for anyone who likes to think about a lot of stuff going on at once, that's good. You know me, I'm not much of a planning guy.
yeah, it sounds like your ideal game.
Yeah.
Swords of Ditto. You said you sort of dropped off
Hmm.
a bit on that one, but yeah, I played all this one through. I just loved the art style. It reminded me a little bit of Minit, MINIT, the Devolver Digital game.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I really liked that one. It had, it was a roguelike, but it wasn't, it wasn't impossible to win, I suppose is the best way to phrase that. You had the time to make sure you were stocked up, and you could even like talk to like a whale person to give you an extra life. Um, I also remember it being quite quick of a game,
Hmm.
so that took me about 5.5 hours.
It
Um,
got rebuilt because originally it was like a straight roguelike, I believe, and it got redone to where you wouldn't really get punished for dying until you were actually going for your boss, unless you failed on like the final boss run.
yeah,
And so it sounded like the changes they made were very positive. So that's good that they listened to their audience.
yeah, and then Heave Ho, I returned to, finished that. That literally took it to about an hour or so. Just the main story levels on that, playing single player. But yeah, I had fun with that. That sort of gave me an afternoon's entertainment. Mo Astray, you said you liked the atmosphere in that, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
I still don't know. Did you understand any of the story?
I mean, in broad strokes, yeah. Generally, the humans came and they made whatever you are and whatever else was there. There was the race of monsters there that were kind of being overtaken. Um, it I played it kind of months apart, so I lost a lot of the details in there. But
Yeah.
I was there more for the gameplay anyway.
Yeah, that one I'm sort of conflicted with. I don't. I played all the way through. I thought the sound design was very good.
Hmm.
I loved the visuals. Wasn't sure about the dialogue sounds. I think they could be interpreted in the wrong way. Um, but I don't know the story. It just I'm not good with stories that are just presented with I don't know books and letters to read. It had that
Hmm.
comic strip which showed sort of a bit of the story, but it just didn't work with me. And at the end, maybe I didn't waste my time, but I thought I could have spent my time on something different.
Okay.
But you sound pretty pleased with the experience, so it just shows how we can have different responses to games. Uh, Anything else? I think Horace I'll talk about at the end of this bit, but was there anything else you returned to?
um, Neoverse was a pretty competent Slay the Spire type game.
Yep.
That's pretty much all I want to say about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horace, that's probably one of my favourite games of the year. It's just excellent. It's a single person with another, well, two people. But I'm friends with the developer on Twitter. We sort of talk every now and then. And he did most of like the story. Um, and his friend did a bit of the programming. That was just it was a really good game. The notification well the it has like a da 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 sound to it.
Hmm.
It's like it's jingle. That's
Yeah.
my notification sound now. Um, it just in 20 hours it takes you in loads of different places. Um, I really recommend it if you want a game to really put some time into, have fun throughout it. I think I don't know whether you found this. Well, what I'm about to say next, I don't know whether you experienced. It's going to sound really. I don't know what the word is, but patriot, pet, patriotism. What's it called when you're
Patronizing.
patriotic? It's
Oh, okay.
patriotic.
Patriotic.
It's
Okay.
like it's going to sound like oh, I'm British, blah blah blah. But quite a lot of the references were very reliant on sort of British references and British humour.
Yeah.
Um, so
Definitely.
I don't know if it would detract from an international person's experience because you don't know what you're missing as such. But there was like a character called Anton Deck, and there's a really famous double act called Ant and Deck here in sort of the UK, and that would go completely over sort of international players. But I still think the gameplay to it definitely presents it as fun to everyone. And I think yeah, you said the same that you liked the gameplay and sort of the different mechanics it presents.
Yeah, I could never really pin down what the game was because it was always changing, both in terms of the gameplay as well as the story. Like the story kept going in places I really didn't expect it to.
Definitely.
So it it was a game that was always changing, which was cool.
We're going to focus more from now on about games we return to. Um, so, if you want to hear our original thoughts, like I said a minute ago, in the description you'll find a list to the playlists of our respective reviews. So, yeah, starting off in this month, we had Supraland, Grid Ultimate Edition, Hellblade, The Messenger, Barotrauma, Felix the Reaper, Men of War Assault Squad 2, Stygian, Reign of the Old Ones, Remnants of Nazif, Overload, The Stillness of the Wind, The King's Bird, and then we had a sneak peek of Eichenthal, and we had a DRM free, or the humble original of Before I Forget. So, what did you return to, Austin?
Superland, I played some more of. I haven't finished it, but I really want to because oh my gosh, Superland is super fun. Um, Hellblade, I finished. The Messenger, I kept going with, but did not finish. I'll get more into that later. Barotrauma, I
Yeah,
came back to. Felix the Reaper, I came back to. Uh, Remnants of Nazith, I tried to come back to, and I hit a pretty hard stopping point there. And the King's Bird I played some more of as well.
Okay. Yeah, so I played quite a few similar games to you. Supraland, I played, and then yeah. So Supraland, what part did you sort of get up to in vague terms?
Uh, I think I got to the second big open area. So like I unlocked the fast travel mechanic to get from like the town to uh to skip through that first open area. I think that was the last thing that
Yeah,
I did.
yeah. Supraland, I don't know what part I got up to. Um, I'm trying to think back. I remember the graphics being very good, but I got to a point probably a little bit further than you did, and the puzzles just didn't work with me anymore.
Mm.
And the ability seemed locked behind coins that I didn't particularly want to get. It sort of fizzled out a little bit for me. And then there were so many good games this month that I didn't. I sort of ultimately ended. Well, I ended up not playing it. But yeah, the graphics, the overall style, I loved the toy sort of nature of it.
Hmm.
I think it's now been picked up by Humble. I think they're publishing the Switch version of it.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, so that's a surprise. So that might have been part of like their deal, their publishing deal. It's good to see Humble moving to like Nintendo Switch as well.
Yeah.
Grid, I played quite a lot of the sort of campaign of that. That was a really good racing game, especially the Ultimate Edition. But it just came with so much content. Messenger. So I think we stopped at similar points. Did you play the first half of the Messenger?
Yes. So
Yes.
I really liked the 8-bit. Yeah, I liked the first
Yep.
half,
Hmm.
and then the thing happens, the spoiler
Yep.
happens,
Yep.
and I loved a lot of what changed there, but the game the change in structure of the game I did not. I thought I would like, and then I played it for a little while and was just like, oh, I hate this, and
Yeah.
I ended up stopping.
That was the exact same thing with me.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, again, we don't want to go into spoilers, but something happens in the middle, and it's not a genre that I particularly enjoy. Um, yeah, without getting too much into spoilers, but yeah, the overall design of that is just awesome, really. And I think there was a surprising amount of humor. I saw the Messenger and
Oh
thought it'd be
yeah.
like this really serious take on the platforming genre, but then there's some really good humor, and I like how you sort of have the letterbox, don't you, to the like the ratio, the cinematic ratio, where you have the two black bars at the top and bottom.
I it's been a bit since I've played it, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So like in a cinema, when the cinema picture doesn't quite fit on the TV, just for
Mhm.
listeners thinking, you have like the black bit at the top and bottom. If the enemies or the sprites or different types of sprites went over that black bar, they would sort of pop up, but the background wouldn't be there. It's hard to explain, but it's just a really nice visual design, and the entire game looked really good. Um, any other thoughts on the Messenger?
Um, I would say even given my problems with the second half, I liked the first half so much and got enough time out of it that I think that on its own was
Yeah,
what I would consider to be a game that I really loved.
yeah, I think I'd have similar thoughts. I don't, if people ask me about the second half of the game, I just talk to them about the first. So next up on the list is Barrow Trauma. So we had a lot of fun with this in the Bombchu Discord, didn't we?
Oh my gosh, yeah, this caught fire all of a sudden, not just in the Bombchu Discord, but suddenly like I had friends who don't watch my channel at all coming to talk to me about barotrauma,
Yeah, and
and
the
people
ship
were
as well.
buying it
Right?
in sales and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, it's this wild submarine, space submarine game where you and your other crewmates are trying to keep this ship barely running and complete missions with wonky controls, but everything about it just works in this very interesting way. And the fact that it's got online co-op, I think it kind of came at the perfect time
yeah. You
because people
mentioned
were
that it.
needing stuff like that.
Yeah, you mentioned that it caught on fire, and I was thinking you were going to mention that quite a few times the submarine literally caught on fire.
That too, yeah.
The underwater submarine, and we would all be like running to put the fire out whilst trampling over each other's like dead bodies, and there's a monster by the
It's
fire extinguisher.
burrowing its way in and murdering everybody. And if you've got somebody on your team who's dumb enough to be shooting your teammates as well, then that's a big problem. You're trying to
That may have
get
been
the
me.
morphine.
Just yeah, just shouting, and it's the type of game where even when you like fail horrifically, you still have a good time at the end of
It's
it.
fun to fail, and that's really important with a game like this, where if it's going to make it so that you're most likely to fail a lot, anyways, make it fun to fail, and it is because the fails are catastrophic.
Yeah, I don't know what else we could say apart from it's a really good game of Friends. I don't think it'll be the same experience without Friends. Um, but yeah, I think that's everything with Barotrauma. Felix the Reaper, I returned to that. I finished that. I must
You
admit that I did.
finished it.
Well, yeah, but I did have to use a few tutorials.
Okay, okay.
It gets very hard, like
Yeah,
towards
it
the
gets
end.
hard really fast.
I think it's to do with like it's non-traditional in its puzzle structure. I haven't played anything
Yeah,
like it before, but
yeah.
it's a. I just love the style, and it has. Oh, what's the actor's name? Patrick Stewart, isn't
Patrick
it?
Stewart. Ooh, Captain Picard himself.
That was a complete. The type. I looked at the game, looked at the low amount of reviews the game had, and I was like, "Wait, is that Patrick Stewart?" And you think, "Oh, they must have hired a really good impersonator."
That's what I
And
thought.
then
I had
you
to go
look,
look it up.
yeah, they just really. I don't know much of Patrick Stewart's work, but you can recognize a famous voice when it's there.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that was a real surprise. It's a good game. A dancing death with Patrick Stewart, not sort of sentences you think would go together.
Well, also like just Felix's dances are super cool and the music's really great, and so like I don't know what made them think to put that as like a because it wasn't a trivial amount of work to do that. They actually hired dancers to model that
Yeah,
dancing off of and had like a dynamic system uh, to where he could like shift into other dances.
it's a
It,
lot of
it-
technology that you wouldn't
yeah,
expect.
for something that didn't really matter much to the gameplay, but it was just like it added a lot to the personality of the game, which was really
Hmm.
cool.
So, Remnants of Nazif, how far did you get into that when you realised it wasn't for you?
I don't remember, but that was a I love the idea of the game. It's the grappling hook and trying to be speedy, but I fumbled with the controls too much, and again, that's one that I would love to watch people play, but it got too hard for me pretty early on. I think
Hmm.
I can't remember how far I got before I just had to put it down.
I can't remember whether I got to the final level. Um, I either completed the final level or was stuck on the final level. But yeah, the ending levels are just crazy. Like for a speedrunning game, usually you'd be able to complete it quite easily, and the fun comes in getting the quickest time.
Hmm.
I was playing Astrobot's Playroom on the PlayStation 5,
Yeah,
which has a speedrunning mode where you can complete it very easily, but it's only when you learn the certain jumps and tricks and
right.
and attacks that help you go faster that you really start to speedrun. This was like, let's make a really hard game, but wait, the idea is that you speedrun in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. There were several times when I would just play it without the music, play it for hours, just seeing how far I could get through whilst listening to a podcast or another video, or whatever. But yeah, Remnants and Nazif, not Nazif, but yeah, good game. The final level was almost impossible. Um, King's Bird, I tried to return to that, just couldn't get back into it. I think
Yeah.
my platforming fix of that month had gone to Remnants, and it just didn't feel. It felt quite floaty, and I think that's purposeful. But
Hmm.
compared to the tightness of Remnants of Nazif, the control schemes didn't work together in a single month.
Yeah, I also came back to it, and because I enjoyed playing it for the review, and then when I came back to it, it was just like I played for a bit and just I had no drive to ever come
Hmm.
back again.
Yeah,
But
it worked as a platformer. I just don't think it presented anything different. enough to make you want to play again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of games like that on Steam that you can find for sure.
Yeah. Were you able to check out any of the DRM free stuff?
I know I played Iconfell, and I can't remember what that game is.
It's probably
I,
a review in itself.
I know Chris really liked Before I Forget, and so I have it downloaded, but I have not played through it yet. Um,
Yeah, I highly recommend Before I Forget.
okay.
It's a really really powerful game, and I think it treats its sort of subject matter of memory loss in quite a respectful way.
Hmm.
In that the character you play as, or the character you're spectating, ironically enough, I've forgotten a lot of the game. Um, in the, I just the whole way through it treats it in a really respectful and nuanced way, and it's not too long of a game. I completed it in one sitting. Um, the the visual style is very good, and just in general, it's a really good game. Quite it's educational without feeling academic, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
You don't feel like you're sitting down being taught about. I think quite a lot of games, and they try to deal with something, whether that be political, environmental, health, that sort of thing. It's quite in your face, whereas it was subtle, but enough to give quite a powerful message. So yeah, I can really recommend that one. It also says we've got a Steam key for Boundless. Was that the Minecraft type game?
Oh, I forgot about
Yeah, me
that.
too.
uh, let me look that up real quick.
Yeah, that was yeah Minecraft or Roblox. Yeah, there's definitely the Minecrafty thing.
Oh, this was. I think this was like the MMO
Yep.
type of game that had like a bunch of. I think this had a bunch of microtransactions or something to it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I think I'm looking at the Steam page and there's no reference of microtransactions. It's a Square
Okay.
Enix published game.
I remember
There's an
people complained about it super hard for some reason, and I can't remember why. But
there's an expensive like deluxe edition that gives you.
yeah,
Oh, here we go. A 10% lifetime bonus to your total beacon plot balance. So there must be microtransactions just hidden away from Steam.
yeah, it's something inside the game, maybe.
Yeah, and a Gleam Club membership. But yeah, I just did not touch that game in any regard.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
tried it out,
remember?
and I don't remember any of my time with it.
I don't even think I added it to my Steam library. No, it's
Oh,
not in my Steam
jeez.
library.
Yeah.